Hey guys, what's up? Dave here. So to kick this new year off in good fashion, I got myself a new MacBook Pro. My old one was getting slow. So I got the one with the M3 Mac. So it's quite a beast. I'm really excited about this one. And I also just went through the process of configuring everything again. So all the apps, all the settings that I use for basically everything that I do, which is programming. So I'm a developer, I work on AI projects, I run a business, and I also create content for YouTube. So with all of that, I got a lot of apps, configurations, and things that I need in order to run my day-to-day for my business and everything that I do. So in this video, I want to take you through the process I just went through, show you all the apps, all the configurations, to hopefully teach you something new. Hopefully you see maybe some new apps, some configurations, some tips, some approaches that I use that could help you as well to kind of like upgrade your digital life. All right, so let's get into it. So my plan that I have is to start with my applications folder and go through all of the applications that I installed one by one. If it's a simple application and straightforward, I'll just briefly talk about it and continue with the next one because I don't want to make this an hour-long video. But if I feel like there are some tricks that I use or some interesting thoughts on why I use the application maybe over another app, because I tried literally all of the apps out there all the different versions of the things that I use right now. So everything that I use is very thoughtful and some research and experimentation has been put into it. So let's kick things off. And at the top of the list is 1Password. So this is literally like, I'm not overestimating, one of my favorite apps. It's a simple password manager, but once you get used to it, it can do even a lot more than just being a simple password manager. But it's just so convenient, especially when you set up some hotkeys for autofilling in your favorite browsers, for example. And why this is specifically interesting for developers as well, I can also do, for example, an SSH key. I can do a database. I can do API credentials. And me working with a lot of clients for my business, Data Lumina, where we do development projects, I have to store a lot of sensitive information. And being able to do that in 1Password, then also being able to share it with my team in a very safe and secure way, while also being a store for all of the sensitive information that I have, even the crypto wallets, all of that. So if you don't already have a password manager, if you use your browser, so that's what I did for the past like 15 years or so, just use Google Chrome as a password manager, look into one. I recommend 1Password. LastPass I think is also a good one, but yeah, I can highly recommend. All right, then we have the full Adobe Suite over here. I won't go into much detail there. It's all the creative apps, Photoshop to create content. I like Adobe. I've been working with Adobe for the past 15 years or so already. It's what I know. That's why I have it. Then we got Alfred, which is a must, I believe, if you have a Mac. So this is basically the Spotlight that you have on Mac. So Spotlight search, but then on steroids. So I have it set to Command Space, and I can use this to do whatever. I can search files. So for example, if I want to look at, let's say, my LangChain experiments, which is a folder that I did for my, or a project that I did for my YouTube channel, I can just go in here and I can just open up the project. And it just in general works a lot better than the traditional Spotlight, but you can do a lot more with it. So I also have some workflows in here that you can configure. I have some custom hotkeys, and what I also really like is the clipboard history and the snippets. So those are also, once you get used to those, very, very useful. So if you don't have a Mac and you don't already have Alfred, I would highly recommend looking into it. All right, then we got AltTab. This is an interesting one because I've been a Windows user up until 2 to 3 years ago, and I love Mac. I completely switched to Mac. I don't think I will ever go back, but I really miss the AltTab functionality like this that you have on a Windows. And AltTab is a fancy little app that you can use. It's free also, that you can use to mimic that AltTab Windows functionality. All right, then we got Anaconda. This is for development purposes. I'm a Python developer with a data science background. I now work on AI projects. I use Anaconda to manage my environments mostly. All right, then we got the App Store is default. And then let's get into Arc. This is also an interesting one because I just mentioned that I've been an avid Google Chrome user, but I think around 2 months ago, I completely switched to the Arc browser. And why did I do that? Well, a couple of things. I like the design better than Google Chrome. And also, since I make videos, you can see it already right now. The whole philosophy of the Arc browser is that, hey, our screens are more wide than tall. So let's not take the space at the top of the screen where your URL, your address bar is, and make the screen even smaller. Let's take the wider part of the screen, since we use 16:9 ratios, and move it to there. So all of your navigation and your tabs and all of that is there. So I like that philosophy. It works well for the videos that I create, where you can see right now my hat is over here and it won't cover up the screen. And it's just overall, they have just some nice UI elements where over here you can, for example, go to your websites. And also if I, for example, let's ask something to ChatGPT. I cannot type right now, but I can also instantly go to ChatGPT and do a prompt over here, which I think is quite cool. So it's these little things. It's a fancier way to browse the internet. That's, I think, the best way I can describe it. So if you think that's interesting, you can have a look into it. It took me about 1 week to get used to switching from Chrome. So in the beginning, it feels a little uncomfortable because you are constantly looking where are my tabs? Where am I? But for me, it took a week. All right, so let's continue with the list. We have a bunch of default apps over here, and then we can come over here to ClickUp. And man, this is an interesting one. So ClickUp is a productivity tool, a project management tool, even a way to store documents. But their whole philosophy, their mission is one app to replace them all. And I think they're doing a really good job at doing just that. I will probably create some separate videos completely on ClickUp and how I use it to run my business currently, because I have to prepare something on that because there's a lot of sensitive information in here that I cannot share. But the best way I can describe it, it's similar to Notion, but I personally don't really like Notion, because the thing is, Notion is really a document-first application, and it works really well for that, to create documents, to store all kinds of information. And ClickUp is a project management-first application, but it also has that those powerful document features of Notion, plus a lot more, like linking, relationships, recurring tasks, goals, different kind of views. You can create tables, a lot of cool stuff. So I'm currently in the process of transitioning all of my business operations from project management to knowledge management. We're moving that to ClickUp. So that's an interesting one. Then we got Close, which is the CRM that I use for both of my businesses. This is, I would say, only interesting if you're at around the 6-figure mark already or doing more, because it's quite expensive. And under that, you probably don't need a fancy CRM. A spreadsheet will probably just do, or for example, use something like ClickUp or Notion or Trello to manage your leads, your pipeline, and all of your relationships. But if you're in the market for a really good sales CRM, Close is the one to look into. Then we got Craft, which is, I have it still on there, but I'm kind of like moving towards ClickUp for this as well. So Craft is a really cool way to, I would put it as, create fancy Google Docs. I think that's the best way to put it. You can create just fancy documents, share them on the internet. I created a lot of YouTube videos and tutorials, even my whole mastermind program, Data Freelancer. I made that within Craft, but now we're transitioning to ClickUp. Then we got DayOne, which is a journaling app that I use. I use it not every day, but every now and then I have kind of like a default journal template that I go through, which has some questions on, hey, what's your intention for the day? What are some things you're grateful for? Amazing things that happened yesterday, to kind of like create some headspace, get into a good mood, and focus really on being present and the day-to-day and everything that I got going on. So that's nice at sometimes. And then we got DeepL, which is a really good, if not the best translation tool. So I'm from the Netherlands, natively speak Dutch. Sometimes this is a useful tool. I set it up that I can select text wherever in the browser or in the application and hit Command C and then tap C twice, so Command CC. And that will open up the selection within DeepL. This is just useful sometimes. And what I found, what also works really well, is kind of a hack. So this is for, if for example, if English is not your native language and you want to, then we got Dropbox. It's also an interesting one. So this is my cloud storage solution of choice. So I've dabbled with Google Drive, but just the sync on Google Drive, at least with Mac, is just awful in my opinion. I don't know if it's me and my setup and previous MacBook specifically, but I always had issues, especially when you switch some of the files to off to online only. So it leaves a copy in the cloud, and then if you want to open something, it just downloads it instead of having everything stored on your hard drive. But to me, Dropbox always on point with the sync. So I have a Google Workspace subscription for my business, where we have Google Drive, but I pay separately for the Dropbox business version. And what I also like is that I can just have my personal account and my business account both within the same application. All right, then we got Ecamm, which is the software I'm using to record this video right now. It's one of the best and easiest recording tools for Mac. I believe it's Mac only. But it works really well if you want to record your screen and also put other elements like a camera or even some animations or stuff on that. So if you want to create content, you could start out with Loom, which I will get into in a bit, but this is a little bit more professional, a little bit more advanced tools. All right, then we got Figma, which is, let me pull it up, is a design tool that I use to create elements for my YouTube channel, sometimes for my brand. So this is something I'm working on. Then we got a whole bunch of stuff for my free community, Data Alchemy. And this is just a nice tool that can work with vectors. You can create nice designs, and you can also use it to create overviews like this. And I also use it to create software architecture pictures for my development projects. So instead of using Google Draw IO or something like that, or Lucidchart, I just use Figma because it's free and it works really well. All right, let's see, let's continue. Then we have a whole bunch of default apps, and then we get to language tool for desktop. So this is similar to Grammarly, but Grammarly is English only and language tool supports Dutch as well. So this is a really cool setup for if you're looking for a spell checker that works within your browser, and also some other apps. We can have a look over here. So it works in a bunch of supported apps. And what I really like about this specifically is that it picks up on whether you're writing, in my case, Dutch or English. So it just picks that up depending on the context, because for me, I switch all the time. So that helps. All right, then we got a bunch of Logitech stuff, because I have this Logitech mouse, which is what's it called? It's the super light. So this is a really light gaming mouse. I really like that. So that's why I got the G Hub, the gaming hub. And then we also got the Logitech options, which is for, let me see, this one, the MX keys, which is just an amazing keyboard. So that is to configure some settings on that. Then we got Loom, and that is another cool tool to quickly record your screen, literally in a similar fashion like this. So you have your screen and then your camera in either left or right corner or wherever you want to place it. And the nice thing about Loom is that you can just easily record a video, then you get the URL and I can send it over to my team, either via Slack or to a client via an email. All right, then the next one is Magnet. And Magnet is a cool little utility tool that you can use to snap screens like this. So I have it set to some hotkeys where I use, what do I use? I use, Command and Option. That is what I use. It's always funny, you know, like I do this all the time, but it becomes so like repetitive that you don't actually know what kind of buttons you're pressing. So this is really helpful. I mainly only use it to snap left and right. All right, let's see. So that's Magnet, very cool tool. Then we have Meter. That's an interesting one where in the top right corner over here, you can sync it to your calendar and you can see what kind of meetings you got going on. It will also show a timer over here, and it has a shortcut to jump into the meeting, whether that's Zoom, Google Meet, or Teams. So that's a good one for when I'm in the zone, basically working on some stuff, working on development project, whatever. And then I can just see the timer. Oh, I have a meeting in 5 minutes, whatever with. You can also show the name. Then we got the whole office stack, so pretty self-explanatory. We use that for some of the clients we work with. We use a lot of PowerPoint for proposals, all of that. Word, I kind of like hate Word. I tend to not use it, but sometimes clients share or want Google or Word documents, I should say. All right, then we got this one, Mr. Horse Product Manager. This is a plugin for Premiere Pro, fancy animations, won't get into that. Moss, this is an interesting one because I'm not sure why, but if you just get a MacBook and you connect a mouse like this, the scroll wheel is inverse. So it's very confusing. Moss is a cool little tool that you can use to reverse that scroll. And that's all I use it for. Very simple. All right. Then we got a bunch of other apps, and then we get to Obsidian, which is another knowledge management tool. But what I like about Obsidian is that it stores your files in plain Markdown on your machine. So while I use ClickUp right now, in the past Craft, to store all of my business documents and tutorials and all kinds of stuff that I want to share, Obsidian I still like to use for kind of like the notes and documents that I want to keep with me forever. So whenever, for example, I do a yearly review, or I plan some things for the future, or I do some research. Also, I have my book notes in here, which I sync through my Kindle with a service called Readwise. It gets automatically imported into there. That's also interesting, maybe for another video, but that's what I use Obsidian for. Okay. Then we got a whole bunch of default apps. And then this is a really cool one, Setup. Because what Setup does, it allows you to, through a single subscription, get access to a whole bunch of fancy apps for Mac. And here you can see what I have on my Mac through Setup. And these are all really awesome. So first is Zip. That is a color picker. So if you have a business or a brand, I have all my Daily Lumina colors over here, and I can just quickly pick them and it will automatically copy them. So this color is now copied. So whenever I'm designing something, usually when I'm designing something, I can just come in here and pick the colors that I want, all my brand colors. So that's awesome. Then Clean Shot. Man, that is also really nice because I can just take a screenshot, go to edit and just say, hey, Clean Shot is a cool app. And I can just save it, or I can copy it. And I can also say, hey, you know what? I want to make this a little fancier before I share it. And here you can see you have something cool that you can share on social media. For example, you can do all kinds of stuff. But so I mainly use it to give instructions to my team. Say like, okay, hey, look at this, or hey, have you seen this? But you can also use it to create fancy backgrounds and things that you want to post on social media. And it has all kinds of cool tools where you can say like, hey, let's blur something out, and you can do, hey, let's focus a little. You can do some cool stuff. Then we have Clean My Mac. So this is a cool little tool that I run every now and then to clean a bunch of stuff. So this will get rid of some junk. It will clean the trash bin, probably a lot more, but this just frees up a lot of space usually. Then we got Bartender, also an exciting one because here you can see the top menu bar is pretty clean, but then if I hover on it, there's a whole bunch of apps. So with Bartender, you can just specify, okay, what is it that I always want to show? And what are the apps that I just only want to show when I hover my mouse over here? So overall, it's just a lot of a cleaner look for your MacBook setup. And then we got Paramu, which is a really cool, I keep saying really cool. I noticed that. But the thing is, I only have the apps on here that I specifically installed on my new MacBook. So I do find all of them cool and use them almost every week. All of the apps that you see over here, and most of them daily. So, but I will try to stop saying this is a really cool one. But Paramu is pretty cool. Because what you can do is you can take photos, videos, media, whatever, and you can convert it. And sometimes, sometimes you have this upload the profile picture and then it's like, this is too big. And then you're like, oh man, do I now have to like open up Photoshop? And it's a hassle. With Paramu, to just drag it in, boom, convert it to JPEG, and it's like it gets reduced to like, I don't know, 100 KB. You can reduce the size. So that's what Paramu is for. And this is all through, let's get rid of it, all through Setup. And there's a bunch more. So you can just go through Explorer, and with one Setup subscription, which is I think like $9 or so per month, you get a whole bunch of stuff. And there's probably a lot more like cool things that you can use. So you can download YouTube videos, manage emails. Interesting. But these are the ones that I use. Okay. Then we come to Slack. Slack's awesome. We use that for team communication. So you have a bunch of channels in here and you can just message with your team. It's just the best and the most effective way to streamline communication with your team. It's much better than email. It's much better than Teams. Discord is another one. I don't know if actual companies use that. Slack is a really good one. Then we got Spotify. Obviously, want to listen to some nice beats whenever we work. So Afterlife releases, if you're into some progressive techno, is that what you call it? I think so. This is really cool. What I have is a bunch of folders that I create. So that is also a hack. Not a lot of people actually know that, but you can create folders and then theme them. And that is actually really interesting. So I have a focus playlist with just a lot. What I have: focus techno, beats to think to, binaural beats, transmission, some classic Zelda, lo-fi, and chill, because Zelda is awesome. And this gives me some nostalgic vibes. So there's just also some RuneScape music in there for those of you who played RuneScape. That's also really cool to listen to. Also really nostalgic. Sometimes that is just what you're after. So the main idea here is that I have one large like focus folder that whenever I work, I can just pick something from here depending on the mood that I'm in without listening to the same playlist over and over and over again. So that's kind of like the philosophy. I have the same thing with the gym. So I try to go to the gym right now in January, try to go for a whole month of January every day, but usually on average, I would say it's 3 to 4 times per week. So I always listen to music. And then this is really just, I come in here and I pick one of those. All right, Spotify, let's see. So then we have, let's see, all default. TimeBolt. It's a utility app to take a video and take out the silences. I used it for some long tutorials where I didn't want to cut it up manually, but this is, I still have to, maybe I throw this clip into it to see. I don't use it that often, but it can be very cool. So it takes a whole long clip and it creates those jump cuts. Then Tinker Tool. This is an interesting one because I mainly use it, and there we go. I keep saying interesting one, cool one, but I use this for one specific reason. And with this, you can tweak your Mac OS beyond what you can do in the settings. And I use it for the dock. So I like to hide my dock. And let's see, what is it? I use it for this. Disable animation when hiding or showing dock, and then also disable the delay. So for me, the dock is just instant. So it goes away and it's instantly there. And by default, you cannot change this. The dock like hides. It goes whoop, and then when you hover your mouse on there, there's a small delay, and then there's the animation to go up. And those are just some things, little microseconds, they add up throughout your life. I'm all day behind my laptop usually, and every little incremental step that I can do to optimize my workflow, I'll take it. So that's what I use Tinker Tool for. All right. Then we get to Todoist, which is, I think next, I mentioned 1Password is probably my favorite, my favorite app. And then Todoist also has a special place in my heart. Like for the past 4 or 5 years, this has been and still is my go-to for managing my day-to-day tasks. I'm kind of like right now the split point where most of my business stuff is within ClickUp, and ClickUp also has a Todoist style like overview of the task that you have to do. But with Todoist is for me, it's just so easy to put in your tasks, to set recurring dates, to set priorities. And to me, it's like if it's not in Todoist right now, it doesn't exist in terms of like things that I have to do. Everything is in there, even for stuff within the house, grocery. I have all kinds of recurring reminders. So I just know I can just literally forget everything, open up my Todoist, and I know that I'm on point with my business, my personal life, house, all of that stuff. It's in there. So Todoist is really awesome. Then we have Visual Studio Code. And this is my IDE of choice. And in here, I have a whole bunch of more configurations that I'm not going to get into in this video. I have a whole video on how I set this up. But the main thing that I do over here, what not a lot of people know and what a lot of people like, I found, is I run Python like this within an interactive window, so an interactive Jupyter session. And if you do it like this, so I just opened up a random YouTube tutorial, and this is pretty old, so I'm not even sure if this will still work. But the idea is that you can, so okay, it loads. Let's say my list equals, there we go, most awesome list. And here you can see how I can work with this. So I can just define it. I can go line by line, store it, then go to the beginning and just show my list. And I use this to iteratively go through my code without having to run the whole file every time. And this is similar to working with a Jupyter Notebook, which is very common to data scientists, but not common to essentially all other programmers. But it's a very intuitive way of working your way through the code and working with all of the variables. But the problem is that Jupyter Notebooks are a bit clunky with all of the cells. So there are some hotkeys you have to select, deselect the cells, do print statements. And this, working like this, is just, it's awesome. It just speeds up your workflow so much. So if you work with Python, I would highly recommend looking into this. I will leave the link in the description for this VS Code setup. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so that's VS Code, and you also will see some of the other settings that I have in here to configure that. All right, and then last on the list here, we got Zoom, which is my video conferencing software of choice. So I prefer this over Google Hangout and Microsoft Teams. Zoom is just a dedicated company dedicated to making a video conferencing software, and you can just tell in terms of the features that they have in there. So I use this to host client meetings, internal meetings sometimes, although we also use Slack Huddle feature for that as well most of the times. And I also use this to run the Q&A calls for our mastermind Data Freelancer. So that wraps up all of the applications that are on this MacBook right now and all of the essentials that I can't live without. There are some other things behind the scenes. So for example, we of course have Homebrew on here running in the backend. Through that we have Git as well. So those are some miscellaneous hidden features that you of course need as a developer as well. But I mainly wanted to dive into all of the apps that I use to run my development business, to work on client projects, create YouTube content, and overall just run my business. So I hope it has been helpful. I know it's kind of been a long video, but I just want to keep it raw, show you my opinions, my thoughts. So I hope that you like it. If you did, if you want to see more videos, I typically make videos on AI and data related topics, mainly technical tutorials. If that's something you're interested in, make sure to subscribe so you can stay tuned. Also, if you found this video helpful, please leave a like, and then I'll see you in the next one. And then in the meantime, you can check out this video where I'll take you through this VS Code setup that I use.